actually move out of the way because that lionfish was approaching that closely.
Hi, this is Teri. Welcome to Adventures in Nature. I have the pleasure of being here with Ladd Akins. He's the Director of Special Projects with Reef, R-E-E-F. That stands for Reef Environmental Education Foundation. His talk today is going to be about the lionfish. The lionfish? Hi, Ladd. Thanks for coming and talking to us. Could you tell me the lionfish, now, do they call it a lionfish because of its appearance or because of its personality?
Well, it may be a little bit of both, and maybe because it's king of the reef right now in this new invaded region.
And the lionfish has invaded South Florida? Is that what they're telling us?
Yes, actually, it's invaded South Florida and the northern Caribbean, and it's moving very rapidly through the rest of the Caribbean.
Okay, so what are the consequences of that?
Well, one of our big concerns is what impact are these fish going to have on our native reef systems, including the native fish on those reefs. And we're finding that the impacts appear to be severe.
And so it's a lionfish, so what, it's an aggressive fish? Does it eat the food for the other fish?
Yes, it is a carnivore and it eats other fish and crustaceans. And it appears to have no predators in this new native range. Lionfish are actually native to the Indo-Pacific and have been released most likely from aquariums into our waters, and now they're breeding, reproducing, and increasing in numbers.
Well, that's where I've seen them, is in aquariums, but I see all those, it's a beautiful fish, by the way. It's absolutely gorgeous. But those spines on it, they look a little ominous. Now, are they dangerous?
Yes, actually the spines are venomous. The ones you normally see are across the back of the fish, dorsal spines, and there are 13 of those that are venomous. Not deadly, but extremely painful.
Oh,
and there are also spines on the bottom of the fish, so the best thing to do is look, but don't touch.
If you see one of those on the reef, you don't want to be there at all. And if a person has one in an aquarium, do they have to be very cautious when they clean the aquarium? Is that dangerous for them?
Yes, actually it is. Lionfish stings are the second most common sting in marine organisms, second only to stingrays. And the reason is because of home aquarium owners that have them and are cleaning their tanks.
Do you think that's one of the problems? Maybe somebody had one of those beautiful lionfish and said, well, I want to take care of it and don't have the heart to let it pass away peacefully.
Right, or maybe they got stung and said enough of this and got rid of it. Certainly, either intentional or unintentional releases through storm damage has likely been the cause of these lionfish being introduced into our Atlantic waters.
Well, they are beautiful. They're beautiful to see, but okay, I snorkel a little bit. I do a little bit of free diving. If I see one of these on the reef, what should I do?
Well, right now what we're asking people to do is take very detailed notes on exactly where you saw the fish, when, what it was doing, and call us at Reef. And we're responding to those calls and removing the fish as they're sighted.
Oh, so your people from your organization go out to that reef and remove them?
Yes, that's right. We have plans in place in the Florida Keys for early detection, rapid response, and we're also working with other organizations up the coast of Florida to do the same.
Oh, so that's very important. So us here on Key Biscayne and all South Florida, we have to be aware of this. If we see one, make a notation where you are, where you saw it, and notify Reef as soon as possible. Right,
either through our website, which is reef.org, or by calling Reef at 305-852-0030.
Okay, and we should do that immediately because that will destroy the reef, I suppose.
Well, it could have severe impacts, so we want to minimize those by removing the fish before they become established there.
Okay, well, you gave us something to do, something to think about, and I'm so excited to see your talk tonight, to see what's going on. We're over here at Rosenthal School of Marine and Atmospheric Science at part of the University of Miami. So stay tuned, join us. I think you're going to learn a lot.
I'm Otis Brown, Dean of the Rosenthal School of the University of Miami, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here tonight for the fourth of 5 Sea Secrets lectures. Tonight's is another one of those with a local dimension where we'll talk about lionfish.
He met the people who organized Reef. That's the Reef Environmental Education Foundation. And what Reef does is train people to identify fish. And I just want to introduce Paul Heumann and Jim Bonsack, who are here, I hope. Paul and Jim. Any of you who've put your head underwater know Paul Heumann and Ned DeLoach because they've provided the Bibles for identification of marine animals, but not only just fish, but corals and all the whole thing. And we'd be in sad shape without them. So fortunately, Lad Akins met Paul Heumann and Ned Deloach and Jim Bonsack when they were organizing Reef, and he got involved because they were looking for somebody to organize and realize the dream that they had of producing a kind of underwater Audubon society of fish watchers. Well, Ladd was the director of that program for almost 15 years, and he only did this. He started with nobody, and he wound up with 40,000 members. 40,000 members. He had a lot of help, but it was his vision and his drive that really realized the dream that Paul and Ned and Jim Bonsack had. And now he's gone on to take on a different kind of work, and that is he's a special projects officer for a Reef and focused on lionfish. And we're very lucky to have him tonight to tell us not only the biology and the threat, but the really remarkable features of lionfish. Ladd Akins.
Not be the smartest one in the crowd, but I'm persistent. So, welcome everyone tonight. It's really nice to be here with you tonight. I've been in this audience many times and listened to wonderful presentations, and I hope I can do justice to this great series. Of course, Dr. Ginsberg did a great introduction into the organization that I work for, and my main focus now, as he mentioned, is this fish up on the screen, this lionfish. And what I thought we'd do is talk a bit about lionfish, a little bit about their biology and ecology, where this whole invasion started, and then finish up with what's being done about it. And there's some very interesting things that we'll talk about.
Hi, I'm Teri, and this is Adventures in Nature. Boy, do I have a show for you today. It's been reported worldwide that when Hurricane Andrew, a Category 5 storm, hit South Florida in 1992, a Miami waterfront aquarium was smashed by the hurling winds, and 6 exotic red lionfish escaped into Biscayne Bay, unnoticed. Now, 17 years later, thousands of lionfish are wreaking havoc off America's east coast. It's leading a potentially catastrophic marine invasion. They are known as the Hurricane Andrew 6. Now, whether it was an accidental dumping or intentional, it happened, and they are here and have caused much concern. Well, why are we so nervous? What does it matter? It's a very pretty fish. Did you know the red lionfish is one of the most venomous of all fishes in the sea? The venom of the red lionfish may be delivered by not only the spines of the dorsal fins, but also the anal fins, the pelvic fins, or all of them at once. And it's known to cause a severe reaction in people. Now, numerous cases of stings are documented by medical and scientific journals. Usually, it's extremely painful and causes vomiting, sharp pains, cramping, redness, and did I emphasize pain? Lots of pain, lasting several hours, even days. And it's said once stung, never forgotten. Perhaps that's how the red lionfish found its way into the Biscayne Bay. Many aquarium owners, they find them exotic and very beautiful, and expensive too. They're a beautiful addition to one's tank. But once stung, the owner may want to dump them out and be rid of those prickly beasts. But please don't. Be responsible, be considerate. Talk to the experts. Okay, what is a lionfish and where does it come from? Well, it's normally found in the reefs in the Indo-Pacific Oceans from Malaysia, French Polynesia, even in the Pitcairn Islands off Japan and Korea, and Australia. Now, full grown, it weighs about 2 pounds, and it grows from 11 to 15 inches long. It usually outgrows the hobbyist's aquarium tank, so it's not a cute little fish anymore. It's also a carnivore, meaning it eats other fish. It uses its feathery pectoral fins to herd the small fish into a confined space where it can more easily swallow them. They're a very bold fish on the reef. It's in the scorpion fish family. They're usually found in lagoons, reefs, but do you know they've been found as 160 feet? Well, that's a lot further than the majority of divers would consider diving. Yet these reef fish survive and thrive and adapt to their surroundings. They tend to hide among the rocks and the caves during the day and come out during the night to strike their prey and feed. And feed they do. They are ravenous eaters. Predators. In its native Indonesia, the lionfish predator is thought to be the cometfish, and it must use ambush tactics to seize the lionfish from behind, and then when he eats them, it's tail first. It's also thought that sharks eat the lionfish, since sharks are known to consume noxious or venomous organisms with no obvious ill effects. Sharks are very helpful, in keeping our oceans clean and in balance. But now we have the lionfish in our waters, and there seems to be no stopping them, as they don't seem to have any predators here. Well, why? Because they don't belong here. It's hoped the grouper will eat them, but there's little evidence so far. We don't know too much about the sharks in our waters, if they have a taste for these little creatures. Now, in controlled studies, the sharks don't seem to be too interested in them as a food source. But the lionfish have been found in the stomach of the grouper fish. So there is hope they will become part of their diet. The scientists call it an impending invasion, and they're trying to get the word out on these poisonous fish. Okay, draw your own conclusions, but I feel it's something we should all take notice of and help where we can. Okay, the food habit. The red lionfish is a predator of small fish and shrimps and crabs. Prey are stalked and eaten with a lightning-quick snap of the jaws and swallowed whole. They have the capability of devouring all of the reef fish, all of them. They threaten our lobster, crab, snapper. It's been reported they can eat up to 8 times their body weight per year. Now, they usually like to eat at night. Reproduction. Red lionfish are what we call external fertilizers that produces a pelagic egg mass following a courtship and mating process, and then fertilized afterwards by the male. The larvae, like those of so many reed fish, are planktonic, with a cluster of eggs floating on top of the water. Now, the females generally produce 2 tubes composed of mucus and between 2,000 and 15,000 eggs. Shortly after the females release these eggs, the tubes swell with seawater. Fertilization proceeds, and the larvae hatch after 36 to 48 hours. Not very long. Biologists think the way the fish spread out of its territory is by the released floating sacs of eggs that ride the Gulf Streams north and along the U.S. coast. It's leading to a large colonization in the deep reefs off of North Carolina and even Bermuda. Now, do you know lionfish have even been spotted as far north as Rhode Island? And that's according to NOAA, N-O-A-A. They follow this Gulf Stream currents east and south, all the way to the Bahamas and the Caribbean Sea. They've been hopping from Cuba to Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and that's according to NOAA marine ecologist Now, scientists and volunteers are feverishly trying to fight this invasion of lionfish. To do this, they're studying the lionfish, now found in deep, as I said, and shallow water. Once established, these lionfish will start destroying the reefs and throwing our ecosystem completely out of balance. And that's the thought of many marine biologists. This change will threaten lobster, grouper, snapper, and many more animals that call these water their home. Now, new studies headed by Mark Hickson of Oregon State University, they're about to be published in a peer-reviewed science journal. He found that one lionfish can deplete 79% of a reef in just 5 weeks. That's pretty serious stuff. Serious enough to get the attention of marine biologists worldwide. That means the coral ecology dies and algae takes over. We all know what that means. You know the potential is there for it to be devastating. Now that's a direct quote by Tom Jackson with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. Jackson's job is to track invasive species and creatures that can sometimes change and destroy a vital ecosystem. Now his personal opinion, and mind you it's his personal opinion, it would be best to ban the sale of lionfish completely. That's personal, but it's something to consider when you're making a purchase for your tank. Do you know in 2003, nearly 8,000 lionfish were imported to Tampa alone? 8,000! You only need 15 or 20 in one area to create a population. Now that's a direct quote by Jackson. Volunteers are now being recruited to help stop the invasion of this species into South Florida, into our South Florida waters, and especially the Keys. They're not aggressive toward humans as of yet, and their sting isn't fatal, albeit extremely painful with flu-like symptoms. Now, there's no estimate so far of tourists who have been stung, but marine officials say swimmers will be more at risk as the venomous species overtakes the tropical waters along popular Caribbean beaches. So researchers are scrambling to find out what will eat the medicine beauties in their new Caribbean home. They're experimenting with predators such as sharks, moray eels, and even humans. Adventurers eaters describe the taste of lionfish fillets as resembling halibut, but so far they're a tough sell. It's not on too many menus so far. And hungry sharks typically veer abruptly when researchers try to hand feed them a lionfish. Andy Dehart, now he's with the National Aquarium in Washington, and who's also working with Reef, R-E-E-F, in the Bahamas, he says, and I quote, "We've gotten sharks to successfully eat a lionfish, but it's been a lot of work. Most of our attempts with the moray eel have been unsuccessful." Not too encouraging. But remember, they don't belong here, and their normal predators don't habitate here either. So they populate with no checks and balances. Now, one predator that will sometimes eat a lionfish is our local grouper, which are rare in the lionfish's natural Southeast Asian habitat. Scientists are pinning long-range hopes on the establishment of new ocean reserves to protect the grouper and other lionfish predators from overfishing that species. Well, the simple solution, of course, would be to get humans, develop a taste for the fish, which is exactly what the key-based Reef is trying to do. Reef, now that stands for Reef Environmental Education Foundation, Reef. In the Bahamas, where the waters are inundated with lionfish, several chefs have gotten creative. They fry it, they bake it, they slice it, make ceviche. Now, be sure and try it if you get to Stuarts Cove in the Bahamas. It's really quite tasty. And then you'll know Then you'll know what all the fuss is all about. I was recently in the Bahamas, and the dive operators there all have pictures posted in their boats of the lionfish, asking the divers and snorkelers to be on the lookout for the fish. Now, once located, they wear protective gloves and they carry nets to catch the fish. Never, and I repeat, never, attempt to catch the red lionfish yourself. Simply chart where you saw the fish, time of day, and report it immediately to the dive shop or to Reef. The reason is the fish is not aggressive toward divers, yet. But if constantly provoked by novices, they will quickly learn new skills and become aggressive very quickly. And then we will all suffer. Noah and Reef are studying the fish. They're trying to find out as much as possible about the species and trying to contain it, because it is here. There's no way it's going away. If you have an aquarium with the lionfish, or sometimes it's called the scorpionfish or a firefish, please be responsible. Now, if it's outgrown your tank and you don't want it anymore, please call Reef and make arrangements with them. If you've been stung cleaning your tank and you don't want the fish anymore, please call Reef. Don't ever, and I repeat, don't ever consider throwing the fish in the bay. If you know someone who has a tank with a lionfish, or if you see a tank with a lionfish, please educate the owner and make them understand, never, never throw this fish in our ocean. This fish has a potential of doing considerable damage to our fragile coral reefs, and its sting really, really hurts. I'm Teri. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you learned something also. Thank you for watching.